Isuri Hana by Chametz. We concluded that according to Rabbi Chizkiah, it's from the pasuk of Lo Yachel. According to Rabbi Avohu, it's from the fact that it says what? Al the Shirish Aleph Chaf Lamed, and it doesn't say a heter. He says only it says a heter of each one. Nafkamin and Allah was only one place by whether Chulin Shenishchlu Ba'Zara, whether it's Asa Bahana or not. According to Chizkiah, it would be. According to Rabbi Avohu, it would not be because he needs also by Treifa to darshan that. We're beginning today a new sugya of different Isuri Hana, nothing to do with Chametz, simply applications of the concept of Isuri Hana. That again, there's many, just to reiterate, there are many achilas that are Asur Bahana. Not only Chametz, not only Shar HaNiskal, but in addition, Basa B'chalav is Asur Bahana, Oral is Asur Bahana, Klei HaKerem is Asur Bahana. There are many Yisrael Hana. The Gemara there was describing when he got to Chametz and Pesach, and because there and Shar HaNiskal says the lashon of Yei Ochel. It says it by Orla too, but it says Lochem by Orla. So let's go over yesterday. We started something. Let's go over it again. Amar Avo Amar V'Yechon. Go all up. Go back to, you see the Taisvis Pral Oichel Chelev. Go about 5-6 lines up there. Amar Avo Amar V'Yechon.
What daf? I'm sorry. What daf?
Chavdal Amid Beis. Chavdal Amid Beis. Kol Yisun Shevet Torah ain't like it Aleim El Derech Hana Asan. Right. All Yisur Bet Torah, you get Malchus Derech Hana Asan. In other words, when it's Asan to have Hana, the only time you get Malchus is you have Hana in the normal manner. It has to be the normal manner. It's not the normal manner, you're not going to get Malchus. Lemute Mai. Some Rav Simi Barashi Lemute Shemeniach Chelev Shashara Niskal Agabe Makasai. If you leave the fat of a Shara Niskal, which is Asan Hana, on top of a wound to go ahead and cool it off, right? Shu Pata. Rashi says because the way you have Hana from Chelev is to melt it down, not to have a piece of fat and you're rubbing it on your body. The kol shekain oichel chelev. It's certainly oichel chelev chai shu pata. If you'd eat chelev chai, it'd be pata because that's not normal. So the first lashon we had that we mentioned yesterday was speaking about achila. This second lashon included hana. So on that we're bringing a raya to that in order to go ahead and be chaya for Yisuri hana, one has to have hana in the normal way that what it's used. Itmanami, Rav Acha bar Avya, Rav Asi, Rav Yochanan, Haniach Chelev Shashar HaNiskal Al Gabi Makasai. If someone leaves the fat of a Shar HaNiskal on top of a wound, Pata, the Fisher Kol Yisun Shevet Torah, ain't like it Aleim El Derech Hana Asan. Rav Zeira, Afananami Tanina, I'll bring a riot to that. Now, we know Arl is Asa Bahana, Asa Bachila, it's Asa Bahana. The first 3 years are a fruit-bearing tree. So it says, Ain't Seifkin Asabayim, and if you go ahead and Ain't Seifkin Asabayim, you don't get Malchus, Mishum Arla, Ela Hal Yoitzim and Azaitzim and Anavim. The extract of Zaitzim, olive oil, or Anavim, or what? Or grapes. The extracts of Anavim or grapes, right? Grapes are Anavim. Zaitzim or grapes, Bilvad. If you go ahead and eat that, you will get Malchus. If you eat, I guess the tut there is cherry juice or strawberry juice, some type of berry juice. Te'enim, fig juice, rimonim, pomegranate juice. Obviously, this is before the company Palm got into business, right? So these were not. Again, when I was growing up, there was no such thing as pomegranate juice, and there's still no such thing as fig juice. The only fig we had was fig Newton, and that wasn't kosher, right? So this, if you would drink it, you would not go ahead and be chayav. You would get malchus. Now, why is that? It must be because it's shaloy derech hana asan. It's not normal to have fig juice and fruit juice and pomegranate juice. Masha'en came olive oil and grape juice or wine is normal. So therefore, you have a good raya that the only way, it's orla over here. Orla is a surya hana, and nonetheless, you're not chayav. That's a good raya. That what you have to have derech hana. Says Malay, my timer. Is it not because you didn't eat it in the normal manner? So you have a good raya. No. If you would have told me, forget the fruit juice, the peri itself. That meaning it's not normal to eat this, and you do eat it, and you be pata. Very good. The reason over here that you don't have that you're not chayiv for juice of a pomegranate or berries is because it's not juice. It's considered not considered part of the pri. It's considered zeya ba'alma. It's considered sweat. It's considered sweat. It's not pshat. You're having hana from the etzem pri, and the isser is the pri. The isser is the pri. Masha'en came by anovim and zaysim. We know it's not zeya. We know it's shemen. We know it's yayin. So memela what there you would be chayiv, but not because what you need derech hanasan. It's pshat. It's not orla, guys. Pshat. It's not orla. That's one. That's so Abaya has. He's not disagreeing in din. He's just saying you're right. It's not exactly a good raya. Amar Abaya, a new Gemara. Hakol moedim b'klei kerem shaloikim aleim afilu shaloik derech hanasan. Klei kerem is where there's two ways. You could either, as we're going to see, you plant it together in a kerem, or you take an existing plant and it adds 1/200th of its growth, 1/200th of its growth while in the kerem. It gets it's an existing plant and it's getting its nutrients from the kerem, and it's going to be 1/200th because 200 will be mevatel it. So this is you have it's 199, and when it's in the kerem, it grows one more. In that case, what? You would be chayv for klei kerem. How even if you have hana shaloi derech hana asan, you would be chayv. That's what Baya says. My timer, what's the reason? Because it doesn't say about anything. There's no isra achila stated by klei kerem. The lashon of the pasuk is pen tikdash hamaleya, less tikdash hamaleya. The growth malaya is the growth, and tikdash, and we say pen is a lav. So if the isra is tikdash malaya, it's mashma that what you can't have any enough from it, but you have to burn it. So memela, even if I have hana asan, since it doesn't say achila, I would be what? I would be chayiv. In other words, we're making a distinction between orla and klei kerem. Why by orla do we hold that you need to have hana derech normal? Because it says achila. Even though it's asa b'hana, v'balt, it says achila by orla, it's migdala, that the hana you have to have is in a normal way, in a tviistic way, in a normal way. On the other hand, by klei kerem, where it does not mention whatsoever achila, it says pentikdash hamaleya, it doesn't say anything about achila, it's mashma hana, any which way. I'm a mela, filish lei derech hanasan, I will be chayiv.
This has nothing to do with Chizkiya's Chaflamer thing, right?
Zero. We all agree that these are asab hana, and now it's just going off and taking one more step. Guys, you hear the chilik by orla where it says achila, you need normal. We're here, it doesn't say achila, you don't. So that's the distinction between the two. That's the distinction between the two. Back inside. My time. Now, we're going to ask a kasha, guys. The kasha is going to be, it's going to be one of these kashas. We're going to have a limud, and because we don't say a statement by klei kerem, we're going to ascertain that it must be klei kerem. You need to have derech hana. So again, we're going to have an involved dialogue, and in that dialogue, a back and forth of a limud. In the end, we're going to say, why didn't you say klei kerem? You have to have derech. You don't have to have derech hanasan. It must be because you do have to have derech hanasan. That's the kasha on Abaya. Let's see how it develops. Isi ben Yehuda Omer says Isi ben Yehuda the Tani Isi ben Yehuda. Minayin lebasa b'chalav shu asa. Now we know basa b'chalav, fellas. Just outside for a second, it says 3 times in the Torah, le'savashel gedi b'chalei b'mo. Esel in Achila, right? And one is Lini Bishul and one is Lini Hana. But the Gemara there has another opinion. It's the opinion of Isi. Isi says, how do you know that Basa B'cholav is Asa? It never says it. It says, Lo Yisabashim Libech Lerimo. So Nema Kan, it says by Basa B'cholav, Ki Am Kodesh Ata, he says, because you're an Am Kodesh. For Nema Lahala, and it says by Treifa, Rashi says, not Dafka in the Vela, but Anshe Kodesh Tiyon Li. You should be men of Kodesh to me. And just like over there, it's Aser by Nevela, and it says Kodesh, so too by Basa B'cholav, where it says Lo Yisabashim Gedi, it says Kiam Kodesh, we have a Gezerah Shara, Kodesh Kodesh. So just like Treif is Asa, Basa B'cholav is Asa. The Ainli Ela Ba'achila. Good, that only tells me Achila, guys. Why? Because Nevela is Taka only Asa Ba'achila. If you can learn at Gezerah Shava, it's only Asa Ba'achila. Behana Minayin. How do you know Hana? Says Gemara, Amr Kal V'chomer, I'll tell you Kal V'chomer, you know Basa B'cholav is Asa B'Hana. And it's in this Kal V'chomer that we're going to develop the Kasha, guys. It's in this Kal V'chomer where we're going to develop the Kasha on Abaya. Again, Abaya's statement that Klei HaKerem, Afilu Shaloi L'derech Hanasan Yechayev. And from this Kal V'chomer to figure out that Basa B'cholav is Asa B'Hana, we're going to get to a Kasha on that fact. So let's not lose our train of thought. Let's not lose the trail that we're going through. Uma Orla, Shaloi Nevda Ba'avera. You planted a tree, you did nothing wrong. Adrabah, you have to plant a tree. Good, you did a normal thing, you planted a tree, right? And nonetheless, Asura Behana, Basa B'cholav Shenevda Ba'avera, by cooking it together, Ein Aydin Sheyasa Ba'ana. So this is called like a Memetzino. The Memetzino Kavachayim, yeah. Madach, this is also not this. Okay, so now, not really a Memetzino, it's really Kavachayim. I'm sorry. So Madach, again, Madach, where you didn't do an Avera by Arla. It's Asa B'Hana, Basa B'cholav, but you did do Avera, Ein Aydin, it should be Asa B'Hana, Amid Aleph. You'll ask the following. In other words, I have a kasha on your Kavachayim. Marla Allah, what Arla, Shekain, Lo La, Shasa Kaisha. Arla, there was never any moment, guys, where the Arla was what? Was Mutta. There was never any moment where the Arla was what? Was Mutta. From the moment it was planted, the seed and the tree grew, it was always Asa B'Hana. That was it. But Basa B'cholav, Shasa Kaisha. But before you cooked it together, the meat and the milk were Mutta. So maybe the reason why Arla is Asa B'Hana, because it's so chomer. Why it's so chomer? It never had a moment of existence on this world where it's Mutta. But Basa B'cholav, which should have a moment, maybe it's only Asa B'Achila from the limit of Kodesh Kodesh. But maybe it's Mutta B'Hana. So your Kal V'chaim is not a good Kal V'chaim. Says the Gemara, well, you think that Shas Heter is a kula? Chometz v'Pesach yochiach. Shahoyla Shasa Koisher. Basa B'Hana. So this kula that you want to say that exists by Basa B'cholav is not such a kula. Chometz v'Pesach. The whole year it's Mutta. Now it's Asa. And nonetheless, that is Shasa Koisher. So therefore, I'm restoring the Kal V'chaimer from Arla. So therefore, I can't learn from Chametz Pesach, and now therefore my Kal V'chaimer from Arla is not good again, and Basa B'cholav is still not Asa B'Hana. So right now I have no Kal V'chaimer, and Basa B'cholav is Mutta B'Hana. Here's what we need, guys. Here's what we need. Klei HaKerem yochiach. Klei HaKerem will disprove you. She'ein einish karis. Klei HaKerem is Asa B'Hana, despite the fact that it doesn't have an einish karis for Asa B'Hana. Good. Mashma now, so therefore Basa B'cholav is Asa B'Hana because of the proof from Klei HaKerem. Mashma, there's no question you could have asked from Klei HaKerem to destroy it as a support for the Kal V'chaimer. Good. Mashma again. Right now, your whole support for the Kal V'chaimer that Karis is not a Chumrah is Klei HaKerem. And we're not asking any other question. Fred the Gemara, Vim Isa, and if it's true that Klei HaKerem would be Asar, Shaloi L'derech Hana Asan, that even if you don't use it in a normal way, you will be Chayiv, Nifrach Malakei HaKerem Shekei Loiken Aleim Afilu Shleik L'derech Hana Asan. And the Gemara doesn't do that. So Abaya, you make a claim. You make a claim that Klei Kerem you'd be chayev even in not a normal way. Then why in the Kal V'Chomer, why didn't they go ahead and use this as a means of upschlugging Kal V'Chomer? You didn't do that. You know why you didn't do that? Because it's not true. Because you'd only be mechayev derech hanasan, similar to Arla. That's the kasha on Abaya. Now, guys, if it was true, right? If it was true, let's fearize. Let's fearize. Okay, so Klei Kerem Tochiach that even though it's not an Einish Karis, you still Asa Bahana. Malakei Kerem, that what? Malakei Kerem, that it's a Chumrah, that you could have, you'd be Chayiv, even Shaloi L'derech what? Toima B'Basa B'Cholav, that you're only Chayiv Derech Hanasan. How do you know that? How do you know that? Maybe B'Basa B'Cholav you're also not Chayiv. You know, how would you know that? So says the Gemara, V'Abaya Toima. What are you going to say? Toima B'Basa B'Cholav she'ein loikin love ela derech hanasan. B'Basa B'Cholav you'd only get if you go ahead and have a no in a normal way. Atu B'Basa B'Cholav achila k'siva bei. Guys, how did we get into this? Let's go back to the beginning. Arla, you only chayev what? Derech hanasan, because it says achila, right? I began the sugya. What was the chilik between Arla and Klei Kerem? Arla, that it says achila, only normal way. Klei Kerem, where it says pentigdash meleya, even shalom normally. Does it ever say by Basa B'Cholav Lashon of achila? I'm learning it out from where? Where's Isi learning it out from? He's learning it out from what? From achila, from nevela. Memela, Abaya would hold Basa B'Cholav also. Basa B'Cholav also. If you have in a not normal way, you'd be chayev. The reason why the Gemara didn't ask it is because it wouldn't be true. Because Basa B'Cholav is also, it's the same thing. Again, I'm just going to say one more time because it's you got to go over it a lot of times. The Gemara says the following. Abaya says a din. Says Abaya, what's my din? My din is Klei Kerem, even not normal yechayev. We end up with a Kal V'Chomer that by Klei Kerem you didn't ask the question. You should have said Klei Kerem. You should have slugged up Klei Kerem from Basa B'Chomer distinction. Klei Kerem is chayev is Asa Ba'ana, even what you're not a chayev karis. So why didn't the Gemara say Madach Klei Kerem yechayev afilu shloi Ba'ana? The answer is it didn't say that because Basa B'Cholav also you should be chayev shloi derech hanasan. That's why you didn't say it. It's not a kasha on me. The idach and Isi ben Yehuda, who they asked the kasha from Isi ben Yehuda, the Kamoisivla, who asked the question. Sabalahachi kagama min nevela. We learn that Basa B'Cholav from nevela. Man nevela derech hanasan, just like nevela, where it says achila, it's only if you have a no in a normal way. Af Basa B'Cholav derech hanasan, right? And therefore also, so enachinami, you should have asked the question because Basa B'Cholav you're only chayiv in a normal way. This is the reason it doesn't say achila and Basa B'Cholav itself, and you learn that from the Deila. That you would get malchus if you have a nut shaloi derech hanasan. Okay, Fred Gemara, another kasha on your Kal V'Chomer. Again, what's that Kal V'Chomer? That Kal V'Chomer that Basa B'Cholav from Arla, just like Arla you did in Avera. Where you didn't do an Avera, Asa Ba'ana, Basa B'Cholav, where you did an Avera, Ein Adin should be Basa Ba'ana. We ended up that the Klei Kerem is the one that disproved Chametz. Klei Kerem is not a Sakaris. So, Fred Gemara, V'liflu Mal Klei Kerem shekein lo hois lo shasa kosher. Why don't you say Klei Kerem never had a shasa kosher? Right? Time of Basa B'Cholav had a shasa kosher. In other words, this is a question on a Kal V'Chomer. Your Kal V'Chomer is supported by Klei Kerem. There's no Einish Karis. And still, what yechayev Basa B'Cholav you should only chayev. Says the Gemara, Malakei Kerem. It never had a time when it was mutter. Time of Basa B'Cholav that did have a time when it was mutter. Says the Gemara. Now the half of the Gemara is, guys. You know when Klei Kerem is asa when it comes into the world, when it grows into the world, or when it adds on to the world, it never had a shasa kosher. But what happens if the chiyuv is when it's in the ground before it takes root? It had a shasa kosher, right? Putting it in the ground before it takes root is the same thing as taking the milk and the meat, putting it together before it cooks. And that's considered shasa kosher, right? Basa chalav shasa kosher in the pot, boom, boom, boom. So too over here, grapes and chit and soira in the ground, boom, 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 boom. Okay, that's the Gemara. In the Havmina, you held it's the finished product. In the Teretz says no, it's the process. And for the Gemara, let's see it inside. Meaning to say, when you didn't ask this as a question, that the ikka is net esa, the ikka meaning when it's planted before it takes root, it's asa hoil b'hoisla shasa kosher. Since it had a shasa kosher, koidim hashvasha, the ikka is the roots are asa. Since it had shasa kosher before shvasha. So Memela, we have a very good kal v'chayma now. According to Isi ben Yehuda, the reason why basa b'cholav is asa ba'ana is because the kal v'chayma from Arla, the kal v'chayma has stood up. Good. Again, Lamaskot and Kolabasta, guys, that's not the reason. The reason is because it says Lois Savashal 3 times. Now you just said a din that the time you plant it before it takes root, it's asa, okay? And you said you took it for granted that that's the din. I'm asking you on that. Masiv Rav Shammai. Now, again, as I told you, there's 2 ways to be able to clear kerem. There's to plant it initially, or take a plant that is fine and leave it in the kerem that plant will grow 1/200th of its growth. Okay, so now it says the following: Hamavir otzitz nakov bekerem. If someone takes a flower pot that has a perforated bottom, a flower pot with a perforated bottom, and it goes through a kerem. Since it has a perforated bottom or side, and it's getting the nutrients from the kerem, im hoisif masayim. If it gains 200th of its growth, there, asa. Hoisif in, loy hoisif loy. Dafka, if it grows, right then, but loy hoisif it doesn't, not. So what do you see? Despite the fact that it's planted in the kerem, it's not asa. L'chayra, when it's in the kerem, in the pot, you have a hole. According to you, right then it should be asa. Why do you have to wait to gain 200th of its growth? Why don't you say it's asa right away? So the obvious difference is, guys, it's a difference between an initial planting and an existing plant. When do we say the initial planting before it takes root, it's asa when you plant it initially? An existing plant is only after it's meisiv. Again, what's the kasha? You see from the Utzitz Nakov, you don't need to, it's not asa until it adds. As soon as you put it in there, let's consider it planted in the ground because it's getting its nutrients. We say, no, we don't say that. Says the Gemara inside. And for the Gemara, Amarava, and for the Gemara, Trey Kroy Ksivi. There's 2 psukim. Ksiv, it says Hazera, Uksiv HaMaleya. Zera means, right, planting initially. Malaya means an existing growth. HaKetzad, how do you reconcile the 2? Zarua Mei Karoi. If you plant it initially, Bashwasha, right? This is the time where it's mashrish, where it takes root. So ruah uba, if it's existing already, uba, and you bring it into the kerem, hoisif in. If it adds 200, yes, loy hoisif loy, hoisif not. Okay, so what did we see so far this night? We saw the shita of Yechon and Abaye. By Orla, if you go ahead and have any hana any which way, even if it's not the normal way, you would be chayiv. You get malchus. By klei kerem, you'd have to have it in a normal way. What's the difference between the 2? Even in not a normal way. What's the difference between the 2? Why by orla only in a normal way? Because it says achila. By klei kerem, it does not say achila. Therefore, even in a not normal way. We wanted to ask klei kerem. We asked on Abaye's din from Isi ben Yehuda, and we failed. Along the way, we saw a din of klei kerem. It's considered shasa kosher. Why? Because it's not usher until you put it in the ground and it takes root, but it's shasa kosher at that time. And we're seeing another halacha that's good to know. In Kalayim, it's the din of adding 1/200th of its growth. Okay, says the Gemara Vayik. Amar Rav Yaakov, Amar Rav Yochanan. B'chol misrapoyin, in anything you can get cured. You can use it for your health. chutz me atzei ashera, with the exception of the atzim of an ashera. An ashera is a tree that was deemed avodah zarah, or you have an avodah zarah underneath the tree. There's an ashera in Eretz Yisrael. It's only in Eretz Yisrael. There's shilas and can be in chutz laretz. We'll see Masechta avodah zarah. The bottom line is that an ashera is asa, and if you're going to use the atzei ashera to cure yourself, it doesn't. You can't do it. Hechidami. If this guy's in sakana, he's going to die unless he uses that ashera tree. Afilu atzei ashera nami should be permitted. There's nothing that stands in the way of pikuach nefesh. V'iv the leket sakana, and if you're telling me there's no sakana, afilu kol yisurim shebetorah nami loy. If you all these surim in the Torah also not. So memanav shach. What's the uniqueness about atzei ashera? If you're in sakana, you could even use the atzei ashera. And if you're not in sakana, then any isser in the Torah you cannot use, not just the atzei ashera. And for Gemara lo'olam dika sakana, you taka have a sakana, but afilu hochi, and nonetheless atzei ashera loy. The Tanya Rabbi Eliezer Omer, in a very famous Gemara. In Noime b'chol nafshecha, it says b'chol nafshecha, lo minema b'chol moedecha. Right? Why, if it says you should serve Hashem with your whole nefesh, why does it say with all your moedecha, with all your money? Minema b'chol moedecha, in all your money, lo minema b'chol nafshecha. Eloim lecha, im yesh adam shegufay chaviv alav, nemamoinoi, l'kach nema b'chol nafshecha. Im yesh adam shemamoinoi chaviv alav, negufay, l'kach nema b'chol moedecha. Whichever which way it is, you have to serve a Kadosh Baruch Hu. So now, what's the problem with the Asherah? Says the bottom Rashi. Loma nema b'chol moedecha, 2 lines to the bottom. Yoymar hachaviv mishnayim b'dayoy. Just say the more chashuva one, whether it's nafshecha or moedecha, and that will be enough. Umefarish lefi shepa'amim shezeh chaviv upamim shezeh chaviv. It depends on the individual. Sometimes his money is more chaviv to him. Sometimes what? His life is more chaviv to him. Therefore, you need both of them. Loimar, love God, more than the what is chaviv to you. And if you have hana using the atzei ashera, it appears that the atzei ashera, the avodah zarah, is more chaviv to you than yourself. Therefore, you can't use the atzei ashera. This is the begeder, guys. On 3 Averos, a person dies, right? Yereg val yavor. This will be the avodah zarah. Here you are. You're going to die unless you use you're in sakana. You're going to die unless you use the atzei ashera. Don't use the atzei ashera. Don't use the atzei ashera. That's serving a Kadosh Baruch Hu. B'chol nafshecha. Why? Because I'm showing that my nefesh is not as important one as avodah zarah. And the Gemara
is that a problem? You're not. It's not the way you din avodah zarah, though. You're showing you like
it would have to be clear that again over here I'm about if you're using the atzei ashera, it's not that the servant of avodah zarah. The atzei ashera, the etzah, you're not serving. This is begeder avodah zarah, but it's not it's not like serve the avodah zarah and I'm going to kill you. It's not that, Aryeh. There's such a thing called an ashera. It falls under the category of avodah zarah, or else why would you not be able to use it? Misrapeh, it's near a kemoidaba. It's near. It's like you're moidin the avodah zarah.
But still now Yareg Yavar one.
What?
If someone came over to you with a gun and said, "Eat a piece of ashera tree, I'll kill you," now I'm to give up your life for them.
How do you know?
Because it's worshiping the tree, bowing down to the tree. That's the ashera tree.
We're dealing in a situation where the only tree in the world that can save you is this tree. You look at Tosfos. Just one line of Tosfos, guys. Chutz mi'atzei ashera. Near Lari, the Mari Kigon she'ein yochel isrape mishar eitzim ela b'zeh. This is the only tree that can save you. Kigoin ayidei shedim ay shum davar acher. There's something heebie-jeebie about this tree. In other words, it's clearly that this tree is helping you also avodah zarah. Does that help you?
Okay. Even though it's not really the way.
It's clearly that you're only getting better because of the avodah zarah.
So that would be Yareg
In other words, I'm saying you're in your mind. You have a tree. Okay, come on. But you see, it's not like that. In other words, it's clear from Tosfos that by you getting better from this tree, it's clearly that you're saying this Avodah Zarah may be better. That's what Tais is saying. That's the Gemara. So now, Ki Asa Ravim, when Ravim came from Eretz Yisrael, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, he said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, V'chol Misrapayin, and he extended it. Chutz mi Avodah Zarah, Gilei Arayos, Amid Beis, Ushvichas Damim. Except those three. Those three now. Avodah Zarah had Amaran. We just said Asher is Avodah Zarah. Gilei Arayos, Shvichas Damim. How do you know those two? That it can't be misrapayim in them, meaning save yourself from them. The Tanya, Rabbi Yoimen, Ki kashayakim ishal re'ehu. This is the pasha of onus, of a woman being forced. A naira murasa. She was forced. She was raped by a man. And it says she called out, "Well, a naira is loisasedava." She's an anusa. She's an onus. Why? And it says something very interesting. Just like when a person rises up against his friend, it's the same thing. So obviously the Gemara, the Torah is making a dimion between ritzicha and forced physical relations. When you brought Reitzeach in, what was the reason you brought it in? You want to say that just like that you were forced, right? But already said she was an anusa. She said she cried out and no one was there. It says, so what you'd want to learn from Reitzeach, that it was out of her hands, you already learned. Memela, if something was learned already, it must be for something else. Makish Reitzeach l'naira merasa. We make a hekesh between Reitzeach and naira merasa. Ma naira merasa nitin latzila benafshay. It says ve'ein meshiala. Guys, if the naira, you see a person running after the naira, you're able to kill that person. Just like the naira, right? She's able to steal benafshay. Af Reitzeach nitin latzila benafshay. Reitzeach as well. You can go ahead, guys, and kill him. But that's what we learn out from naira merasa to Reitzeach. Now, what do we learn from Reitzeach? It goes worth base. Just like Reitzeach, if someone tells you to kill somebody, it's Yereg Val Yavar, be killed and don't be killed. Af Naim Marasa Tihareg. So to Naim Marasa Tihareg, she should be killed. Now, we have to see what this Tihareg means. We'll see Tosfos in a second. Vial Tavar. Now, how do you know murder itself, fellas, that you're supposed to go ahead and die rather than kill somebody? It says the Gemara, Svarahu. You don't need a pasuk. It's logical. An individual came in front of Rava. Amalei Mori Deroi came the Mori Deroi, the Moshel of the city. Amalei told me this Rava had the Shaila. This Mori Deroi, this city came to a guy and said, listen, Zil Kotli Laplanya, go kill so and so. The Eloi Katlin Alach, and if you don't kill him, I'm going to kill you. Throughout history, this has been done. Kill him, or I'm going to kill you. Amalei, so Rabbi told the guy, Lekatluch, you get killed. But do not kill. You have to die and not kill the other guy. My chosis the dama didach sumak tfei. How do you say your blood is redder? Maybe the blood of the other guy's redder. It's a very famous lashon. I used it one time. I was on an airplane, and a chassid walked over with a woman, took out the guy and plopped it down next to me. So I said to the chassid, "Who says who says your blood is redder than my blood?" Okay. Anyway, look al pachas. What's the limud? So we're going both ways. We learn out Reitzeach for Naimarasa, that just like Naimarasa, you can be matzel the person killed the person who chased after him. So too over here, you can be matzel what? You can be matzel the Reitzeach. Someone running after Reitzeach. And what do we learn from Naimarasa and Reitzeach? Just like Reitzeach is Yereg Val Yavar, so too Gilei Arayos is Yereg Val Yavar. how do you know shvichas dam is Yereg Yavar? It's a svara. Who's to say that your blood is different? Right. Okay, let's see a Taisus over here. Av narim rasa Yehorig val Yavar. Pirish haboyel. Who? The boil, meaning the one doing the action. Aval he tiboel. She is allowed for loy tihorig, and not what she doesn't have to die. The karka olam he kidame ben soru moira. Right, that in the act of snus, a woman can be passive. If she's passive, it's not like she's doing something. So therefore,
right?
Esther.
very famous Esther karka olam, right? So in Kesubas, so therefore, the gersa over here would be that he has to die, but not she has to die. But not she has to die, because again, she's not doing anything. Uveresh Kesubas nami parach, right? And that's the Gemara that Yaakov just quoted. V'lidrishlu the oinishari, right? Now, why don't we say that? Remember the Gemara in Kesubas there that said that you have to be boiled lehegmin. So once you tell it's mutter. Okay, now, for Rio, the Shape Garcina Tiharig, that she has to get killed. Why? The Mashma ben Soru Moira, in Perix ben Soru Moira, it's Mashma, Uvresh Ksubis, the Oinashari, Hainu, Heichashi Karka Olam, Vlay of the Maisa. Avalasis Maisa, to do an action, Kigoin, Sha'oim Allah, Shetavi her Erva Allah, that she should bring the Erva upon her, Tiharig, Altasa Maisa. Then she has to let herself be killed. So it's not limited to the Maisa being done to her. Let's say the guys would say to her, bring him upon you. And then she is doing the Maisa. And then therefore the Girsa in Agamara could be correct. It says to Harig rather than Yeharag. The Meretzeach Alfinon. We learn that from Meretzeach. Meretzeach loy mechayev lemimsa nafshei elikishoim loy laharig biyadayim. A Meretzeach is only required to die if the person tells you physically that kill him. Abel im oimer, if they would say, Hanach lizrak atzmecha, let me throw you ala tinoik on a baby and crush the baby, by tahari go be killed. In chayav limsa atzmai kedei lahatzl chaverei. The adrabba, iklonema my chos is the domet decharvi sumik tfei duma dama didi sumik tfei. Taisa says something interesting. If you're passively not going to do anything, even by the man, you'll be pata. A man, if they say like this, let me throw you on a baby, and you're going to crush the baby, you're not mechuyev to kill yourself. You can go ahead and do it. So therefore, it must be speaking. And the case of Ritzicha is only when you do an action. So you're comparing Nair Murasa to a Ritzicha. It must be that it's comparable cases. So just like the case of Ritzicha is when you're doing an action, so to the case of Nair Murasa must be when she's doing an action, and therefore we can be gairis to Harik. It's good. It's good taisus to know. Okay. Ma'ber Ravashi Ashkei Ravina. Ma'ber Ravashi found Ravina. The Shayef lo lebarte begurki de orla. He had these unripened olives that were orla. They were asabana, and he was smearing them on his daughter. So Amalei. So he said to Ravina, "Eimadam Rabbanan." When did Rabbanan say that Shalei derech hanasan is permitted? That pshas satzakana. Shalei b'shas satzakana miyamar. So Amalei, hi ishestat semirta nami k'shas satzakana nami. This has she has what? She has a fever. Since he has a fever, it's mamish considered shas sakana. Ikadiyami Amalei midi derech hana kavdina. Do you think I did it derech hana? No, I did do it derech hana. I'm smearing it on. I saw a pshat. Usually you smear the oil. He was rubbing the olive itself. Since he was rubbing the olive itself, it was shalei derech hanasan. By arlo, we said to be chayiv, you need similar to achila. You need derech hana. So we're ending the share the way we began the share. Arlo dafka derech hana, klei akerim, afilu shalei b'shas derech hana. To everybody, thank you for listening.
Thank you.